Okay, so this evening, our Board of Health meeting, February 22nd, 2022, at 7 p.m., we're having a Zoom virtual meeting because of the COVID pandemic. So welcome, everyone. We should take a roll call. So I am here, Eileen Siegel, Chair of the Board of Health.
Cheryl Dunnington, Board of Health member.
Andy Bakanowski, clerk.
Okay, we are all present and accounted for. Okay, so we are also being recorded in case anybody's interested in that. And you can also see us on NCTV, which is live streamed, or again on YouTube. Okay, so our first order of business this evening is our public hearing for 262 Dedham Street. They have a request for local upgrade approval. They are requesting to allow the soil absorption system to be designed and constructed without a percolation test as allowed by DEP policy. Riccio from Field Engineering is here. I'm going to read the variance preamble. So a variance hearing from Board of Health Regulations is called to order for 262 Dedham Street. It is my duty to inform you that you will have to provide the Board of Health with the data to support your request for a waiver of Board of Health requirements, and that if you do not receive the waiver, it will do you manifest injustice. You will also have to show that what you intend to do is environmentally acceptable. Okay.
We actually have Bob Field is here representing. And I can, Bob, you're there. You can hear us, right?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Okay. Did you want to present your request?
Sure. So with the proposed, we're proposing to redevelop the site, raise the existing building and reconstruct a new building, the use of which would be a shooting facility. And we are going to completely rebuild and relocate the septic system relative to its existing position. There are two things we're looking for here. One is sieve analysis in lieu of in situ percolation testing because of the high groundwater we encountered when we did test pits out on the site. And we've based our percolation rate in the leaching field based on this sieve analysis. The other aspect of it's not necessarily a local upgrade approval issue, but there really isn't in Title V a category for this use as far as a design flow rate. So we looked at this two ways. One, we broke the building down by square footage for different uses and applied like retail or auditorium or other uses to different areas to come up with a flow rate which was very close to the flow rate approved for the existing site. The second way we looked at it was a similar facility and got their water use records and doubled that and then prorated that based on square footage. And based on that analysis, the flow rate would be about 75% of what we're designing for. So we feel we're safe and conservative with our flow rates, and the only from an upgraded approval aspect, we're just looking for the waiver on the percolation tests and be able to use the sieve analysis. Be happy to answer any questions. Looking at this, the leaching field and septic system are on between Shire Drive and the building. The other leaching areas towards the front between the building and Dedham Street are all stormwater recharge to meet pre and post runoff requirements. and we have sufficient separation between the leaching field and the stormwater recharge areas.
How much, and forgive me if I am obtuse at this point, how much bigger is this building compared to the pre-existing or the existing building at this point?
I know we're about 40,000 square feet with the new building. I don't know offhand what the existing building is.
I can see if we have an existing conditions plan.
I was just curious. It is not a particularly important question.
Yeah.
It's definitely smaller than the proposed building, but I don't have a square footage offhand.
No problem.
I believe this is the existing conditions plan, the building that's there. It's kind of like an L-shaped building.
Yeah, can see that.
And the proposed building is more to the rear of the site.
And here's the proposed building with the parking in the front.
What is in the current building? Is there anything being used in the current building?
What you have there is the existing building.
That existing?
Yeah, that's the existing building. And then you flip back to the other one. The proposed building is bigger.
Here's the proposed footprint of the building.
Right. And it's a busy plan. So the proposed building is off to the left, and it probably takes almost half the lot. Or at least the length of it's almost half the lot. And I'm not sure if you're able to see it, but you can see the outline of it. There you go. Thank you. You can see the outline. You can see where the leaching stormwater drainage is in the front, and the building's left to that, and you can see the outline of it. It's fairly big. It's fairly. I think it looks like it's bigger than what the existing system is.
Yeah, it's definitely bigger than the existing building.
Yeah, and that's also a 2-story complex too. It's a shooting range with a first floor and a second floor.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's unusual. It's actually it's something new in the area, so it'll probably either be well serviced, by the residents and the people around it who find this as a good hobby or a training site.
So my question was, what's currently there? I'm trying to envision where it is and what the business is. Is there an empty building right now? Is that so they're just going to raise the building and put the new one up?
I've driven by it once. I believe it was like a power equipment building.
Okay. All right.
Of some sort.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Rich has young kids and is often Disney with them this week, but I'm not sure what all the finer details of the existing site is.
That's fine. I'm just trying to envision the building and what it's being used for. So, but thank you.
Yeah.
All right. And so do we have any thoughts from Mr. Saucier regarding the waiver in question? Or is this just a proposal at this point? I'm sorry. I'm so we're looking for, again, we're requesting a local upgrade approval to allow the soil absorption system to be designed and constructed without a percolation test. So we have, Wade, have you looked at that?
Oh, yes, I have. I reviewed the
Okay.
I reviewed the permit application. It is pretty lengthy. It came in 10 sheets, which is kind of unusual, but I think the engineering company just included everything from site plan for different boards and stuff. So we're on sheet 7. And it's interesting because I think this is a nice opportunity for the Board of Health to see a situation where there's a tear down, a demolish, and then a rebuild, and where it stays underneath the local approving authority. in this case. And you can see how this could affect a community or how it works. So this building right here is being designed under a repair permit versus a new construction permit. So, it can be a little more relaxed. They fit the system, meeting all the dimensional and groundwater season, and so the design itself is fine. But going out there in high groundwater season, and as I stated in my peer review, that there's a lot of fill in the property. And when we got the natural material, groundwater is there. Groundwater is even weeping out before it. So I made it just didn't make the right conditions to do a percolation test, and it was also unsafe. So it's fortunate for them they fell underneath a repair permit. And the reason for that is they're keeping the gallons per day, the wastewater design, either at the same or below. They're designing very conservatively with the 850 gallons per day, because their gallons per day used for a shooting range it's much lower, as you can see. And their examples of the wastewater flow and the existing one in Barnstable and the other proposed one is at 200% of what their designs came with. So this is a very conservative design, and it's under a local repair, which is kind of interesting. The way the engineer came out with the wastewater design flow, he did two different ways, which I thought was pretty good. One, he went with square footage. Title V's got a limited list of certain gallons per day that you can use, and so he went through that through square footage of gallons per day that you can use, and so he went through that through square footage of gallons per day that you can use, and so getting technical from square footage of gallons per day that you can use.
Got a little
Nod is happening with her audio.
Got a little
Nod is happening with her audio. Nod is happening with her audio. We have any way to fix this?
1 second. Andrew, I don't think I've got
Any
it.
way to fix this?
Yeah, hold on 1 second.
Yeah, it sounds like the stream in the background of your.
I've got
Any
it.
way to fix this?
Yeah, hold on 1 second.
It sounds like the stream in the background of your.
Any way to fix this?
Yeah, hold on 1 second.
It sounds like the stream in the background of your.
Hold on, I got it. It was on.
Okay. Okay, good.
Sorry, that was me. I'm sorry.
That's much better.
Okay,
That was
sorry
pretty
about
cool.
that. YouTube was running in the background, so sorry about that. Okay.
All right, Wade, you're back on.
Or is that like I'm being annoyed, so you press this annoying button, so just knock out the talker?
It happened at the planning. Yeah, that happened last planning board meeting too. Sorry about that. It's always some technical difficulties.
Okay, so I'll continue on with a wastewater design flow on determination. So they did it two different ways, and it works out fine for this particular project. So there's enough for it. But the only thing that the plan is missing is probably the top and bottom elevations of the impervious barrier. If the contract, so the contract has some kind of guidance in installing that barrier. And that's it.
And we'll add that
My
to the
recommendation. Yeah, I know it was an option. You looked at the plans. The engineer gave the option for the contractor to use impervious barrier or not, or use grading. But if the installer wanted to use the impervious barrier, he needed guidance on, or she needed guidance on the height of it, the bottom and top. But other than that, I recommend approval if on the design aspect.
and I know we're not the planning board, but how does a building that's being raised become a rebuild? Is that a fair question?
Sure, it's an absolutely fair question. For the wastewater only, I mean, it just only deals with the wastewater Title V rules and regulations. It doesn't deal with the building department planning or zoning or anything like that. But if you have a building that's built prior to 1995, and this one was built in 1977, I believe, or 71, and you can destroy it, or you can raise it, it can burn down, and you can rebuild as long as your wastewater design doesn't increase. It'll allow it to go underneath the local Board of Health approval. So it's not considered new construction. It's considered a repair.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't talk about the footprint either. It doesn't limit the footprint or anything. It's just wastewater design stays the same.
They have a hearing with the planning board in 2 weeks to present their site plan for approval.
Interesting. All right. Thank you, Wade. You always have such good information and insight. I appreciate it. All right. So this evening we are to vote on approving their waiver of. I'm sorry. I've had a busy day and I'm having trouble focusing here. We have to vote on the request for the local upgrade approval, and so Wade has suggested that we approve this. So do I hear a motion on approving the local upgrade request? Anybody?
Sure. Do you want to make that, and I'll second it if that helps? Ooh, she's muted.
Cheryl, you muted.
Still muted. There we go.
We're all having.
I'll make the motion as we're going to start doing sign language now. We're having trouble tonight. I'll make the motion for the approval of the waiver for the upgrade.
And I'll second it. When we're done, I do have just one couple questions just about the operation of the facility that may or may not fall under the Board of Health, but it has nothing to do with the approval for the wastewater.
Okay, are you sure you want to wait, or do you want to?
Yeah. It's just sort of musings and more than anything else, and just informational stuff I'm kind of curious about. But
okay,
I'll second the motion.
Second the motion. All in favor? Aye. We have to take a roll call, apparently.
Yep.
Thank you.
Andy Bakanowski, aye.
Cheryl Dennington, aye.
And Eileen Siegel, aye.
So
right.
I get my questions are, Bob, I think, maybe, and Wade, you may want to chime in on this too, is that, the cleaning of a firing range, given my experience, is that, you have specific things that could be hazardous. My main concern as it applies to what could go down the drain here, other than domestic waste, is the various residues of the propellants, whether it's smokeless powder or Pyrodex, some of the black powder that has nitrates in it. And how does that apply, or how does that affect this whole system? Or is that completely separate, or has that been discussed, or is that being presented to another board? That's the first part of the question. The other part of the question is, obviously the cleaning of the backstops, whether this is a Grantex material, which is a pulverized tire material. My experience of how these are cleaned, there's an offsite company that comes in and washes them, and then it's hauled off. But I don't what's going to happen for this location, or Bob, do you know, or you do not know, or are we too far ahead in the process?
I don't know offhand, but I can certainly talk to the architect and the owner and see what those protocols and procedures are.
Okay.
And have those for site plan review and for so it's out there in public review, so during site plan review, so you know what those answers are. And I assume there's still a Board of Health sign off at the building permit stage, that we have those answers long before that.
Okay.
But I will get you those answers in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. I guess
before
if
we
you
have
also,
site plan review.
I guess if there's, and I'll be honest with you, I searched this. I don't know if there's a Board of Health permit required to have inspections for the ventilation system on this. And Wade, I don't know if that falls under Board of Health jurisdiction, just because of the, the ventilation system is capturing everything that comes off, the ammunition each round that's fired. And
it might even be a state level too. I'm not sure. But I want to inform the board though that once you approve this variance, that you probably won't get a second chance of saying a nay to this project, because this will trigger the Board of Health, the building department, that you're okay with the project. So if you do have concerns with any kind of emissions or maybe hand washing after using, the guns, you should wash your hands after, because sometimes you get lead on your fingers and stuff, but you may want to wait till you get these answers before you vote on this. Because it's difficult for the Board of Health to retrack and say, wait a minute, now we don't like the ventilation, or now we don't like this and that.
Wait,
I'm sorry, Andy. And if it is a cleaning issue, then you do have drains, and it would go into your on-site septic. So that's where your connection would be for wanting to know how the area would be cleaned.
Yeah. Wait, I mean, one of the reasons why I approached the way I did is because we're simply just doing the septic system upgrade. The other parts, I mean, does this require a second hearing or approval from the Board of Health to look at, the cleaning of the facility, as well as the OSHA regulations that apply to such a facility? And where does the Board of Health come into? This is a new thing for me. I've dealt with existing outdoor ranges and I've dealt with mobile firing ranges. But this is the first building I've ever looked at. So I can't speak intelligently enough. And I know it's required for a mobile range, but not for this building. But I mean, does the board agree that we probably should look at, cleaning or making sure that we're not looking at other contaminants getting out, and making sure that, people are, they're not breathing lead or any other propellants or dust or, again, I don't know who would permit, whether it's a jacketed round, which is, with copper, or it's simply, can they use lead, or should they only require stainless steel? I have no idea. I just have no idea. I mean, I haven't been able to find any definitive direction on this one. So I guess, I can look at other firing ranges that I know about, but this is new territory for me. But I'm asking the questions simply based on my experience with firing ranges, but not as a building, but they've been either outdoor or mobile ranges. So.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's very important. And another concern too, as far as health, would be noise, right? So noise within the facility, making sure everyone's wearing appropriate hearing protection, things like that.
That's actually covered under the OSHA regulations, noise protection. So that's taken care of. And obviously, is it part of the Board of Health's review that, that they comply with OSHA, or is it something, the town has noise ordinances, but it's usually more outside in its nuisance ordinances. So I'm, like I said, this is a little bit of new territory. So I'm just sort of asking the questions. Do we need to have another review once the building design is finalized, or if it's been finalized, or, does planning board need to have a requirement, or is it zoning? I just don't know. I just don't know how far and where we should go with this after that. But these are concerns because, every single time I've gotten involved with firing ranges, these have been some concerns, and mostly it's been waste related, not necessarily noise, but waste related.
So how do we insert ourselves into that process so that we get some ability to comment?
I think you should send your concerns to the planning board for their hearing on March 8th.
Okay. I can commit. I will put an email together to the other board members so we can review, and Betsy, I'll send it to you, and we can.
Yep, send that to me, and I'll forward it along to the planning board.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
And we'll get those answers in the next 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. So I think we are
Excellent.
Finished currently with 262 Dedham Street. Anybody else have any other comments or concerns before we move on?
Just for clarification for myself, Madam Chairman, are you voting for the variance? Or are you going to wait till you get the information?
I think we already just voted for the variance.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, wait, we didn't ask, we didn't.
Oh, that's right, 3-0. That's right. I'm sorry.
None of this other stuff, was presented in front of the board for them to consider. So that's why I kind of approached the way I did. And I know it's kind of cumbersome, but at the same time, it's something that will probably have to get looked at some point.
I think you might find that the manufacturing industry has taken care of a lot of the concerns inside, like air quality control. I mean, there's shooting ranges all over the place, and the hearing and stuff. You have to wear official earmuffs and stuff, and eye protections, and you have walls and stuff. You got bullets flying around, so the walls are thick. So there's a lot of protection for people going into the building itself. But the cleaning aspect is interesting.
And that's the reason why I got involved with the indoor range, the mobile firing range, is because of the cleaning aspect of it, where there was lead primer everywhere, and people were finding lead in their blood that was well above standards. So
you mean like the workers there, or people who actually
the people that were qualifying, as well as the range masters were, they, as part of the normal process of being in those positions, they were required to have health monitoring, and they found elevated lead levels in their blood.
Because they were there 8 hours or so, occupational length.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, it falls under the OSHA stuff. And I guess that's a question that we'll have to answer at some point, but I'll put this all in a letter, and it may have some open-ended stuff. But again, this is a little bit of new territory for me, because this is a fixed building, and I haven't been able to find, definitive direction on how that should be done. I mean, I'll cite the various regulations I looked at, but it just leaves me with a bunch of unknowns. I just don't know. So okay.
Could we get a copy of whatever you email, just so we make sure we're covering all the bases for you?
Yeah.
Yep, I will make sure. Well, I'm the admin for both departments, so.
Okay.
Yeah. Bob, it's very possible that there already may be something in writing on how, that basically the O&M plan and how the building is maintained. It's just that we haven't seen that, and that wasn't part of our discussion tonight. It may be
sure.
This simply may be a package deal where you buy a ventilation system and you fit it in the space. I don't know if that's the case. That solves a lot of things. If there's a process how the backstop material is cleaned and now it's changed out, and what precautions are taken if people are suiting up, or if they're just using they're removing this stuff in cassettes and then bringing it out and putting it in a trailer, and it's being discarded that way, and new materials coming in. I don't know. I just don't know. So these are all the things that I'll ask. So.
Very good.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
You just, don't want the stuff just kind of thrown into the dumpster, right? And it gets wet and rained and leaks all over the ground, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean I've watched when they've cleaned some of these mobile ranges, and they have everything is fully containerized, and it's everybody is they're suited up with HEPA filters, because the dust. And a lot of it is there is lead in there. Even these are jacketed rounds, but you still do get lead residue from the various materials they're using, and the primers and all that type of stuff. So, okay, I'll get that into a semi-coherent email. I can send that to Betsy.
Awesome. Well,
if I could get it by the end of next week, that would be great, because I too am going to Disney World on March 5th.
Wow, very nice.
Well, maybe you'll bump into Rich and you see 3 boys running around.
Yeah, he'll be back. I'm going with more adult children, so I think we're doing different things.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, have a good night. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
All right. So our next order of business is our appointments, of which there don't seem to be any. So we're going to pass that one by. We have our minutes from January 27th that we need to review and approve. On a quick run through, I noticed on the third paragraph down under public hearings, the paragraph starting with John Glossa. And it says, that was one thing that says, if I can read it because my eyes are tired. It's John Gloss of Glossa Engineering. Mm-hmm. And then the third sentence down, groundwater was spelled incorrectly.
Yes, it says groundwater.
Those were the two big ones I came up with. Anybody else?
So I missed an A and an R.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, there it is. So done. And there. Okay.
All right. Anybody else find anything in particular? Are y'all reviewing as we speak?
That's, yeah, I have no comments on it. I mean, I did catch those typos, but I was going to assume that Eileen probably would have caught those too. So
Thank you, Andy.
I'm a good proofreader. Used to edit my college roommates' English papers. All right. So do we have a motion to accept the minutes of January 27th, 2022?
I'll make a motion to accept the Board of Health meetings from 1/27/22 and with changes as noted.
I second the motion.
All in favor? We need to take a roll call to say aye.
Okay. Andy Bakunowski, aye.
Cheryl Dunnington, aye.
Eileen Siegel, aye. All right. We have accepted the minutes for the Board of Health for January 27th, 2022 with changes as recommended. Great. All right. Next order of business. We have our new old business. So the COVID-19 updates. I know that we were getting some really awesome updates from Tom Gilbert, who is doing a great job breaking down all the information. And then we were thinking about using the information that was being put together by the Metacomet public health group that we are in, and the nurses had put up some information, I want to say at the on the Franklin Board of Health website, if I'm correct. So we're thinking about maybe sharing that with us. So you can click on those and then, right, you can, or it was just, yeah, I think you can click on them a little bit.
So this is the COVID dashboard that Cassia, the epidemiologist, has put together, which is automatically updated, I believe, weekly. I'll just kind of slowly scroll through so you can, I think you all got this PowerPoint. But these are the charts that are included. Vaccinated residents by age. Another one, vaccinated age by race, ethnicity. And then this is the confirmed COVID cases. Let's keep going. The COVID-19 deaths by month, by age group. gender and race. And that's the end. I know that Tom had one suggestion. He said he can continue to do his updates, and, pull the data from this. So we could, if you wanted to, we could have both posted on our website.
His concern, again, I think was still to do with I think this includes the prison population as well. So he was thinking about trying to break that out. I think more information, the better. I think if it's easier for some people to look at charts or things like that, I think that's helpful. I thought this was well done. Gave a lot of information. Cheryl, you as a nurse, what do you think about?
Well, I'm a quality person too, so I love pie charts, so it makes me all happy. No, I think this is great. And I think just having a preamble to comment about the male population, that it includes the prison population, because when you look at one of the first slides, 90% of the females are vaccinated, but only 70-something% of males. So I think just to have that information as kind of a comment for our town. So 65% are vaccinated. So it looks like we have less people vaccinated, and I think people may automatically assume that the men in our town aren't going to be vaccinated, when in reality it's probably related to the prison population. But we don't know that. Maybe the prison population is fully vaccinated and, people in the town aren't. So.
Unfortunately,
That's an interesting question. I mean, there's no way to access that information, I would guess.
I think we've tried several times.
Yeah, and the prison won't give us that information. I think it's great information. I love the fact that Tom had been writing stuff up, but he really doesn't at this point in time. If we're going to use this, it's nice for him to do it, but it's one more thing he has to do. And if he wants to continue, that's fine. But I think this is great information. It's easily looked at. You can flip through it and take a look at it.
Andy, do you have any comments about continuing one or both?
No, I'm of the same mindset. The more information, the better. And actually, the DOC does have a dashboard on the state website for COVID updates. So I have to admit I haven't looked at it in probably 3 or 4 months, but there is information there, because I remember when we talked about this last year. With the impact of the prison population, and I can probably track down or figure out who the best person is to talk to at the prisons to see if they can get direct information. So, but yeah, my feeling is the more information, the better.
Okay, yeah, I don't have any problem with, certainly. I mean, if we have room on the town website, or is it just under the Board of Health? I don't know what they're going to click on to access.
Yeah, so it would be on our Board of Health page. We actually have, a COVID-19 section. I don't know if I can pull it up on. Let me see if I can. Give me a second. I'm going to stop sharing this. You can talk, and I'll try to
talk amongst ourselves.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at the DOC website. That's why my head's turned. It talks about how many COVID tests, but it doesn't speak to, I can't find anything right now about vaccination.
Cheryl, I'm going to say, without having seen or looked at the website in a while, it's probably buried somewhere. And I'd have to search myself. I can't tell you exactly where it is, but I know they had two information officers working on the webpage several months ago.
So this is our webpage. So this is over here. You can see that, right?
Yep.
Okay. So this is where it will live. So this here is what we post, Tom's updates, which we can still continue to do if he wants to do it. But the dashboard will live will live
Mhm.
probably in the same area.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we could, again, I think it's nice that it's put together by the Metacomet group. So I think that that's helpful, kind of getting people to realize that we are now together with other boards of health.
Right.
So, all right, I will take on the job of talking to Tom and asking whether he wants to continue or whether, if he does, great. And then again, he might have some comments on the information that they provide too. So maybe that.
So we can continue.
Sorry, Betsy.
We can continue to have that link right here.
Yeah.
And then maybe underneath that, have a link to the COVID dashboard.
Yep. That'd be great.
Good. All right.
Sounds good.
Okay. So we're going with both. All right. Our next order of business is to discuss the Southwood Hospital 111 Dedham Street Public Involvement Plan update.
So February 3rd, there was a presentation made by the licensed site professional for GFI. The best way, and I'll summarize this. I mean, it was close to an hour and a half of a discussion. The lack of detail was, again, somewhat problematic in terms of where they're going to be looking, although they committed to be looking at what they call the areas of concern, and there were a total of 8 or 9, depending upon how you bundle them together, looking at everything from the petroleum, contamination under the buildings, the landfill, issues with the intermittent stream, and the discovery of the radioactive material. The outshot of that meeting was that the Public Involvement Plan Group met with Mr. Bird last Thursday night, and there's a document being put together as we speak, just on the radiological aspect of it, because quite a bit of research has been done, and it was pretty clear that the subcontractor for GFI that's doing the radiation investigation was not as they didn't have as much information as some people from the Public Involvement Plan Group had found. So it's clearly a cooperative effort to try and get as much information shared between the parties involved, as well as the people that are doing the investigation. It only helps. It simply helps. The meeting that did take place last Thursday night, there was a former employee, a Norfolk resident, who provided some historical background on the property as well. Some of the information was useful. Some of the information, pointed to some areas. Her recollection of some of the waste practices, were discussed. So these are areas that they have to look at. There's a gentleman, and Cheryl, you probably know Michael Leary.
Yep.
They actually tracked him down in Florida, and he's going to be speaking with the LSP of record.
Okay.
Simply because of his long history on the site and as the facility manager. So that's going to be done. One thing I'm seeing as over time as things are developing that I just hope that the other town boards do realize that the PIP group does have a lot of information, and I don't think that they should be put in a position of are they trying to squash this project, because they clearly have voiced numerous times that they do want to help and provide information, and it's important that I think this board can support them. I have facilitated the meeting last week and have been communicating with the licensed site professional for GFI to point him in the direction of where to talk to people, kind of out of my it's out of my realm of being I'm not a tour guide, nor am I a cruise ship director, but at the same time being able to sort of cut through some of the red tape is it's happening, and I think that the information that they're getting is definitely useful, so we can move things forward. There's a lot of information that's available, and we know that there's a lot more information that will hopefully be uncovered by interviewing some of these people. But it's still a long ways off before things really get going out there. However, last week, Bob Bird did tell us after the meeting last Thursday that they were in the buildings and they found 2 kids that were with backpacks doing urban exploring. They don't know how they got in there. They chased them off. They did not call the police. But from my perspective, this has been an ongoing issue based on the correspondence I've seen to the town that the public involvement plan group has asked if the town can take a stronger view on public safety, because there is an open elevator shaft based on some of the videotape I've seen. There's other things out there. The radiation that's been found simply is a fenced area, and they have signs "Do not trespass," but they don't cite what the hazard is, and that's something that should be looked at. And I'm kind of viewing this at the highest authority in town, which is basically the Board of Selectmen, should be communicating to GFI that this is their expectation, and this is my own opinion. It's not necessarily going to probably be viewed as the best way to go, but there needs to be a concerted effort at the highest level in town to ensure that the residents are safe, not because of any contamination there, but simply just because there are hazards that the new owners need to address. So, and I'll get off my soapbox at that point.
Well, it's a good soapbox, but I guess my issue would be, why now? Why are we expecting GFI to do something that the previous owners, we never asked that the select board never asked them to fix or fence in or put signage up? Or, do you know what I'm saying? It seems, not that I'm trying to stick up for them, but I think that it seems a little unfair, all of the direction that these concerns are going, when there have been previous owners and nothing has been asked of them before.
Yep, I agree. I mean, I'll just call to your attention, back in 2013, there was a case of what they described as illicit dumping of chemicals, and they'd found that there was a room. There's a Sun Chronicle article that's been floating around a few times, but several police officers that did respond to a noxious odor were they were affected by it, but this is something that was there and nothing was done then. So, maybe I think there's an attempt that you have a new player in town, you have a new owner in town, they're going to be receptive to requests and changes. And again,
well, I would hope so, except for the fact that I think if we harass them enough, that, they could potentially just walk away. Right. Yep. I mean, this is a big undertaking for them financially and environmentally. And, it's great that they have the wherewithal to hopefully do all of this, but I think it's challenging to sometimes watch what's happening or listen to what's happening. And it's basically, it's harsh.
Yeah. People have been waiting a long time, and the neighbors out there have been waiting a long time for stuff to happen. And I understand that. And I feel sorry for them that they've had taken that long to have all this occur. And I'm glad that somebody is addressing this, but, it just seems like it's too bad that we didn't ask people to do this before. Yeah. I guess I can speak from some experience, back in 2010 when the DEP, I walked the site with DEP because they were doing audits at the prison at that time. And the woman was from DEP, had never been out to the site. So we walked up through the parking lot and we went to the landfill and a few other things, and the ambulance garage where they had a petroleum spill. And it's the lack of, I'd say, aggressiveness that DEP showed back then. I think people are probably tired. I mean, I don't know if it's COVID rebound. I don't know if it's just people are just it's just time. I mean, you can be patient for so long. So, I mean, I agree that yes, being too harsh, could cause problems. But my sense is that they're committed to doing things the right way. And I speak from having worked on these projects, and also, trying to talk with people enough to understand that they don't have all the answers, and try to be, realistic, but at the same time, you kind of always have to keep looking forward, on getting the issue addressed. But, so bottom line is the meeting, the February 3rd meeting was productive, but again, it lacked significant details in terms of where they're going to be looking and what kind of testing they're going to do. Bob Bird did indicate last Thursday, he's the LSP for GFI, is that they're actually doing an asbestos survey of several of the buildings as we speak. He said it's going to be 6 weeks. It will push out to probably 8 to 10, simply because there's areas they have to do destructive testing. And they also have to check for lead paint as well. So that's ongoing as we speak. So, and where it comes under this board, which I had no idea, that there's actually Chapter 111, and Wade, correct me if you've seen this one, about rodent control, that the Board of Health has to sign off prior to a building being demolished. It's Chapter 111, the Mass General Law, Section 31. And the Board of Health has to sign off that, that rodents have been exterminated or removed, or they're no longer considered a risk once the building comes down, this is news to me. Again, some of the things you find, but yeah.
I think if you're a board member in Boston, you'd probably be seeing that quite a bit. Because I can see in areas of Boston, maybe even with insect infestation too, because when you tear down the building, they scatter, and you don't want them to start habiting neighboring buildings, and those buildings are close together within 10 feet or so. So I can see that being a valid law. But going back to a piece of property with hazardous waste in the ground, my experience is that all owners, past owners, as far as DEP can find, or actually if they're still organized, are responsible for the cleanup for hazardous waste on properties. And that's usually done through a 21E report when the sale of property goes through. And the state aggressively goes after the past owners. So everybody's included in the cleanup, not just the person who just purchased it.
Wait, this one's a little different where the new owners actually accepted all responsibility for cleanup.
Oh, I guess they really wanted the property. Yeah. Must have got a good price for it then.
They did. Yeah, they did. It was heavily discounted. Yeah. So there's definitely a lot more stuff that has to get worked through before we're seeing significant progress out there. But at the same time, it's baby steps, and I call progress, and anything is positive that's going on.
I have a question following that last comment you said. So for them to be so bold to buy a piece of property which has known hazardous on it, they must have some kind of pre-testing.
Nope. They did what I would call basic due diligence. They looked at the past reports and some of the correspondence. The discovery of the radiation was brand new, even though it appears to have been widely known by some people. I had been when I was on the Concom now 20 plus years ago. One of the gentlemen we dealt with the conservation filing said that a lot of stuff was dumped in the landfill. I mean, again, that's very general in nature, but at the same time, I mean, it was a cancer hospital. They did use radiation for treatment and then evolved to chemotherapy. And
back then the ground was used for everything to dump. People didn't think about it leaching into the groundwater, traveling someplace.
Exactly.
So that's pretty common back then.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of layers that have to be peeled back on this site to understand really what some of the hazards are, and until they finish some of the assessment work, which based on the schedule, it's probably about a year out. They'll be they're still going to be looking for stuff. So.
Oh, wait, it's about an 80-acre site. Is that correct? Andy, I'm sorry. Is that
88? Yeah. Depends upon how you look at it. There's 88. There's apparently some questions that have come up about the rail right of way, which actually is included in that, and whether they actually have the responsibility.
Right. I know they're talking to the Metacomet Greenway people to do a trail, but they purchased the property, from what I understand, for slightly less than $400,000.
275, yeah, 275.
So I was going to tell Wade that, so that the cleanup, although costly, would be counteracted by the ability for them to develop that property to a significant degree. So that's why I think $375,000. They bought 80 to 88 acres of land. Yeah.
So that's I guess that's my report.
Karen, I think Karen Riley has her hand raised.
Hi,
Karen.
He's back. I was just listening on YouTube, and Eileen, I just wanted to chime in. So yes, the previous owners, weren't so great about securing the property, but as it was just mentioned, the new owners assumed responsibility. And the other piece is there's this whole new phenomena with urban explorers. If you go on YouTube and spend any sort of time, that's all these, young adults are doing these days. So there's way more break-ins, I think, in a lot of these properties
Interesting.
ever seen in the past. I think just on Southwood alone, if you go and, you can't always find it by searching on Pondville or Southwood, but you start searching on all these exploring sites and it's just kind of alarming.
It is. Wow.
Putting themselves in danger. So, I just think in Southwood, there were 4 videos last year put out. Really in depth. These kids are going in there. They're going in the basement. They're waiting. You can see the oil bubbling up. Yeah, spend some time there, and I think you'd have a totally different outlook. Like, wait a minute, this building needs to be way more secure than it is. So,
No, I agree that everything needs to be secured for sure.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, maybe in the past, there might have been people walking on the property, but I think this whole new thing with these urban explorers have really kind of changed things. Probably since pandemic. I don't know. Too much time on the hands. Who knows? But it's alarming.
Well, I believe also they're listed as one of the haunted sites too.
Yes.
So Pondville, that they want to have people wander around there. So
Yeah, and I'm sure one video gets posted and then, other urban explorers say, oh my gosh, we got to get there. And so then it's, just kind of keeps going from there. So,
And is there any way for us to access, where these people are posting and tell them that this is not a great place to come because of these hazards?
Well, I think one of them last year, they were able to do that, but there are certainly plenty out there that I don't know.
Interesting. So there's no kind of like urbanexplorers.com.
No, I think it would be too hard to track them all down. But anyway, I just wanted to chime in about that.
No, thank you, Karen. I appreciate it.
Yes. Okay.
All right. So we're finished with Southwood for now.
For now.
All right.
Stay tuned for next month. Yeah.
Okay. And so Andy, yet again, would you like to talk about the Buckley Man property update?
Yeah, I have to admit I got
You're very
sidetracked on a
busy.
bunch of stuff. I got sidetracked.
Does your wife ever see you?
Yeah, quite a bit since she's still nursing her broken arm. So, so yes, but yeah, I got sidetracked on some other stuff, and the letter is still, and I'll say it's in a very still rough draft stage. So I promise to finish that off. But my understanding is that there was some work that was going on at the property. Some survey company was out there. I don't know if that was good or bad or indifferent. No, I don't know what was going on with that. So.
All right. So a short update on the Buckley Man property.
That's it. That's it.
All right. Okay. So Gary, my husband is always very interested in the fact that his meetings go for a long, long time, but I managed to get them done in under an hour. He's always so I'm trying to stretch it out a little bit longer.
Oh, Gary, if I had my way, the planning board meetings would be as short as the Board of Health meetings. So.
I understand that. I do. Okay, so now we are up to setting our meeting schedule for the 4th Tuesday of every month. So that would make us, what have we got for next month? 4th Tuesday would be 2, 3, 4. That would be the 22nd of March.
Mm-hmm.
Does that work for everybody?
It does.
Yes.
All right.
Just one other thing that was on the agenda was the Callahan Pond.
I'm sorry. I guess I must have got an earlier agenda. I missed that one. I apologize.
Right. But
all right. So do we want to set our meeting now or back up?
What's that?
Do we have to? So we'll just check that in after setting the meeting.
Yeah, March 22nd.
Okay. All right. I apologize. I think I did print that off too.
Yeah, 22nd. Sorry. Didn't see it right. All right, Wade, you're up.
Oh, I'm up? Okay, I thought it was, okay.
No, Callahan Pond.
Okay, Callie, okay, thank you. So did you guys read the report? Because sometimes I feel like a pastor, without anybody going to my sermons and stuff. Kind of like the Beatles song.
I did read it about the noxious fumes.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's in one family along Holbrook Street is really getting a lot of the sulfur gas going to their homes. And they're across the street from the pond itself, the down gradient. They're along the stream, the outlet flow from the Callahan Pond. And Mr. Dan Cullen, living at 18 Holbrook Street, gave the office a call complaining about smell odors around his home. And he also lives adjacent to the outlet area of the pond. And this is the first time I've been there. I've been there before for all the odor complaints. And to find an odor complaint, you have to spend some time there, walking around, using your nose, using what the environment can offer you. That day, it was really a snowy day, and there was ice on top of the pond, so that was great. And I had a sidekick too. Dan Cullen didn't mind joining me, so we went around together. So I was explaining things to him, and it made sense to him. So that was good, and he came up with some observations. And also, he was very good to be with me because he also gave me a lot of history of what's going on there because he's been living there for the last 12 years. Like, for instance, the fish has been catching out of that pond, the wildlife that's around that pond, the beaver dam that's in that pond. So that was really good information to have. But walking around there, we walked. I was following the smell. It was coming in waves, and it was a really strong sulfur smell. And with the snow on the ground, it's easy to find like weeping septic systems because the wastewater is warm and the snow is cold. So you get a melt in the backyard, or maybe like a melt and then it ices up later on. Nothing of that was visible. And the area that we walked around was around the outlet pond of the outlet of the pond, because that's where the smell was coming from. Really strong odors, and then it would disappear. And you walk around, you might get another whiff, and it disappears. So walking around there, it came to me, it wasn't really a septic odor, it was more of a sulfur odor. And my conclusion was that the pond has a lot of nutrients. It's receiving a lot of nutrients, possibly from vegetation, the beavers, maybe evaporation of the pond. There is a stormwater management plan that empties into it from adjacent subdivision, which would be from Spencer Lane and Winston Road, and else, and so there's, and so my opinion was that where we were smelling was the anaerobic digestion occurring with the sediments that's forming in the bottom of the pond. The aerobic bacteria can no longer survive, then the anaerobic bacteria is coming into its place. And with this anaerobic bacteria, you're getting this noxious smells, and one of them being sulfur, which was very strong at the time I was there. A previous time, about a couple of years ago, when I was there again, I found a fish kill off the outlet. There's a bunch of fish in that stream. They were dead. I wasn't sure if that was a smell or not, but that shows you part of the environment, the decay of oxygen out of the water. I'm not sure how the fish got there, but I did see it. And when you go for odor complaints, sometimes you spend too much time there. I think one of the residents called the police on me, and they had two police officers show up asking what I was doing. So they got to see the fish kill too. So I guess that was good. But even down by the road where the outlet stream goes underneath Holbrook Road, there's a few storm management pipes that go into that water too, and we found sewer gases coming from that too. So any kind of movement of the water, bubbling of the water, the surface area being exposed to the atmosphere, we're getting these whiffs of sulfur. And it was good to have Mr. Cullen there too, because he smelt it also. As we walked around, we couldn't smell it. And we kind of went our own way, and we kind of came together again, just looking for that overflowing cesspool possibly, which I didn't think it was very beginning. It was just too much of a sulfur smell. So that's what's going on at Callahan Pond. Typically, how things like that are dealt with is that you put oxygen into the water. You might see some golf courses. They might have floating fountains, floating like a solar panel, solar generated pumps blowing the water into the air to get some aeration going, get more oxygen going in there. And so that's what's happening. It's kind of like a dying of a pond. So that's just my opinion. I mean, I mean, septic systems do fail. They can fail in that area. I've been on repairs in that area, and a lot of the old systems are still far away from the pond. They're not like right on it, like you might find in some of the lakes and ponds around here where they have cesspools like 10 feet from the shoreline. These are pretty far, more farther away. The houses are more farther away. So that's what I came up with that day. And then I drove by the other day just to follow up with Mr. Cullen, let him know I wrote a report. I put his name in it just in case he was interested in it, and also to thank him for his time. Because it was very cold that day and he was out there without a coat on, but he stuck it out with me. And as I drove down the street, I smelled the more sulfur smell and just a whiff, just driving my truck down the road, right where that pond, right where the stream goes underneath that Colebrook Street. I just got a whiff and I pulled into his driveway and just talked to him a little bit. So that's my conclusion of what's going on with that pond.
And
Mr. Cullen was saying, well, can you test the water, make sure it's not from septic systems? I said, well, with the environment, with the animals living it, like the beavers are mammals. So if you test for fecal coliform, it's going to be hot. You're going to get a good hit. Phosphates, you might get it from people just fertilizing their lawn. And in the dilution factor, where we were sitting at the outlet getting whiffs of the sulfur and thinking that it could be sewage flowing by, the dilution factor of that pond alone would be enormous. It just doesn't make sense. So my conclusion is that it's some kind of a chemical exchange from the bacteria and also the breakdown of the sediment that's building up in the bottom of that pond.
so is it something we need to address in keeping our ponds in Norfolk healthy? Or is it just kind of the natural progression of how a pond goes from one stage to kind of a dying stage, which they do, right? I mean, they fill in eventually or become something different over time.
That's correct. It could be both. That's correct. You could be trying to save the pond by putting oxygen in it. But it is what it is. I'm not really sure how to change the chemistry in a pond like that. It'd be a really interesting project. Maybe someone who wants to do a doctorate, or something of that nature. You have to put some time into it. You could try by putting oxygen into the pond through these fountains. But the only way you would find out that you're successful if the odors would go away. Mm-hmm. But those odors don't always stay around there. It comes and goes. Like the last time I had an odor complaint there was a couple of years ago. So now it's here that week when I was out there. But again, the environment was ice over the pond, and it's a very cold day, and that's what happened that day. So I'm not really sure what kind of an answer it is, but I think I wrote the report just to give the relief of it. Could be like someone's septic system overflowing. I don't think that's what's going on there. More of an environmental concern going on. Something's going on with the environment of the pond itself.
Is that something we contact the Conservation Commission about? Is that something that they get involved with?
That's really interesting. They could probably go for a grant. I mean, you could play with it. The town could play with it, but it'd be really nice if they actually had a grant, and maybe have someone who's could spend a lot of time on it and see what it is. Because right now, I'm not sure what kind of grants they are, but I think maybe that department could look into it a little more seriously and see if there is any kind of money for research on areas of the town that's possibly changing through overdevelopment, or as you said, through succession, maybe the dying of a pond itself. And we could just confirm it, that's what's going on with it. So at least people will know what's going on, sad as it might be. Or there might be a really easy way to solve it. Just alter it a little bit.
Would it be okay if we took your letter that you wrote and maybe pass that on to somebody on conservation?
Sure. Yeah, it's public. That's right. Yeah, that's.
Okay.
I'm the lonely pastor that's writing sermons on Sunday. No one's showing up. Yeah, that's why I wrote it. It's an opinion.
We are here, Wade. We are here.
But that's because Betsy put it on the agenda. But still, just in case someone's looking around on it. But it's an opinion, so you can probably get like any kind of paper in science or anything. Like there's always people like to abut it or challenge it, which makes things very healthy, which makes science healthy. So I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Well,
please,
I know that someone in my home is also on a committee that deals with like trying to get rid of the pond weed in some of these ponds that are overgrowing, basically shutting the ponds down. So, what is it? I think it's some curly pond weed or something. Is that what it is that they're dealing with?
Milfoil. Yeah. The milfoil.
Yeah.
And,
that's
Highland Lake especially.
Yeah, that's part of the pond being overtaken by one species. Yeah, usually the oxygen demand lowers down. That's where you get fish kills from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Someone who was really interested in the limnology and had the time to spend on it, maybe through a grant. I would love to do it, but it would just, it would be like a full-time job. You'd be studying it. You'd be doing depths on it. And you'd be looking at the vegetation in it. It'd be a really interesting project. But from Mr. Cullen, he's been catching fish in it. So the fish aren't dead. He's been talking about snapping turtles. They're huge. He's talking how big they are. So their sort of benthic environment is living. The bottom environment's living. They're just getting a lot of sediment and it's not breaking down normally. And so that's where I think you get that smell. And then the beavers, I didn't realize there were beavers in there. Never got a complaint from everybody with the backyard flooding through the dam. So I'm not sure what that's all about. Usually beavers are pretty destructive. And in a pond like that, you'd get a call within a couple of years and be backing up in people's backyards. So maybe that's
they're also a sign of a healthy environment too, because they wouldn't be living there if it wasn't a nice place to live.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So it seems like a healthy pond, but it's got that odor and it's just very confusing. So. Yeah, so my guess is that it's a lot of sediment just being not breaking down properly. Yeah, please send it. This is just a start of helping out the pond. Yeah, it'd be great. It's more like a community effort.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is there any other unanticipated new business this evening?
The only thing Betsy sent that Keolis letter.
Yeah, I saw
a
that.
little while ago. I mean, I've seen those before, and typically what the only detail that seems to be missing is that if they're going to be using mechanical means or some sort of chemical treatment on the vegetation control, that's the only thing that seems to be different from this letter from previous letters I've seen. So I don't know if that's worth commenting to them or if that's simply just they're providing notification, and once they get the plan put together. Again, that usually goes through the Conservation Commission because most of the rail spurs do have bordering wetlands. So that's my only comment on that.
Oh, there it is. I finally found it. I lost it. So again, I'm sorry, Andy. So what was your feeling about what we needed to?
It was just unclear from the letter if they were going to be providing or they're going to be conducting the vegetation management either by mechanical means, meaning going along with on a rail car or a truck that's on the rails with some sort of cutter head on it, or if they're going to be spraying for vegetation control. Using various chemicals, and usually they put that in the letter because the ones I've seen before, this one just doesn't have it. So, and again, I don't know if this board has seen the previous letters, or it seems to be every few years they have to submit for the vegetation control plan. So I just don't know. So that's my comment. It's possible once they get the approvals from the Concom, they'll let them know, or that those public hearings will have that information in there. So that's my only comment.
So it comes to us as well as the Conservation Commission.
It should. Yes, it should. Yeah.
All right. Do we need to coordinate with that too? If we're talking to the Conservation Commission about our pond, we can follow up with our vegetation.
I mean, Betsy, if you want to talk to, Conservation Commission, just ask them if they got the letter and if they're going to have hearings. I mean, that might be the easiest thing to do, is just see if they've received the letter as well. So, and just sort of see where they're going with it. So, and I mean, from history, it seems like everything is usually allowed, and that there's areas of no spray that have to be identified. And I think most of the guys that do the spraying, and the few times I've taken the commuter rail, you can see their signs that say no spray. So they've got to go in with vegetation, mechanical means of vegetation control. So.
All right. Perfect.
Okay.
All right. So that was our unanticipated new business. and the pond, and then we're good. All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 8:18 p.m.
I'll second.
We have to take a roll call, but all in favor of adjourning our Board of Health meeting February 22, 2022 at 8:19 p.m. Everybody say aye.
Cheryl Dunnington, aye.
Andy Bakanowski, aye.
And Eileen Siegel, aye. All right. We are formally adjourned.